Terry Runyan here. Glad to see you guys again, and today I want to talk about the supplies I enjoy using. I don't have a lot of supplies. Let me take that back. I have a ton of supplies, but there's only a few supplies that I actually use daily. So I'm going to share those with you guys, and if I add supplies in the future, I'll go ahead and share those with you too. Primarily been working in a Stonehenge 7x7 inch sketchbook, spiral sketchbook. And the reason I like these is because I love the size and I love the paper. Stonehenge is a fairly heavyweight, heavy enough to be able to hold up to watercolor without excessive buckling. It will buckle. The paper quality has just got a slight bit of a tooth to it, just enough to grab the paint really cool, but it doesn't, it's not like you've got crevices in it like really heavy duty watercolor paper. Stonehenge, and I will link below. So that's my surface I usually work on. Also today in the daily creating group, our prompt is people, portraits, or question mark. These prompts have been going on daily now for about a week and a half. They seem to be something everybody likes. So if you haven't signed up for the group yet, I'll link to it below. That's a closed group, so only the people in the group can see your work. And we're not in a contest there to see who does the best art. We're just there to share with each other, to encourage each other, to play with art together, and I hope you decide to join. And now I'm going to tell you what watercolors I love to use. I have a list of about 10 here. I don't always use all 10. It's a fairly small list because I don't like a real complicated palette with too many colors. You can see by my palette that it's really fairly small, and I do keep it pretty messy. So I'm going to tell you what colors I use, and I'm going to link to each color below as well as the Winsor Newton site. I have them in a tube, which is the way I use them, or they have them dry, and you can wet them down and use them with your palette. I love the Pro paints because they have a ton of pigment in them, and you don't have to use as much of the paint to get a lot of saturation. I also use a lot of water with my paints. That's a big trick of the trade. You don't want to be stingy with your paint or water when you're watercolor painting. So my color list is Payne's Gray, French Ultramarine Blue, Cerulean Blue, Cobalt Blue Hue. You can get Cobalt Blue, but if you have a cat like mine that likes to drink out of your water dishes, the hue is less toxic for our pets. I use Winsor Green, which is a blue shade of green, Olive Green, which is a yellow shade of green, Yellow New Gamboge, which is a little bit of a warmer yellow, and then Lemon Yellow, which is a cooler yellow. Red Scarlet Lake is my favorite red, and occasionally I'll use Rose Madder, which is a pinker red. So there you have it, my 10 watercolors. Don't worry about writing them down. I will link them below with all the links directly to that watercolor. Now these are not the least expensive watercolors you can get because you're getting a ton of pigment per bit of watercolor. The next thing I want to share with you is the brush I use. I've been using this kind of brush for over 30 years. I started using it when I started at Hallmark 32 years ago. I'm now retired from Hallmark, but I still use the brush I started with there, and it's called Scharff, S-C-H-A-R-F-F. I will link below. I use the number 8, which is the biggest size I can find right now. And it's such a great brush. I do believe it's sable. I'm sure no animals were harmed in making this brush. Don't know for sure, but I hope so. And this brush is so great for doing detail, as well as it will hold enough paint that I could keep going for a while before I reload. Next I'm going to share with you the pens I like to use. I use a Staedtler permanent Lumicolor in size F and size S. S is a little thinner line than the F. Any of these permanent pens will work because they don't run when you paint back into them. That's really important for me. I also use a Molotow paint marker, 4-in-1. These are acrylic paints, and I use these for the eyes most often. Because they're acrylic, they don't have as much bleed through of the color beneath coming through the paint. The smaller pen I use is a Uniball Signa Broad, and this is a nice pen, but it does have a little bit of problem with bleed through over time. Like you'll start to see the color underneath coming through, or if you paint on top, it'll bleed a little bit. So keep that in mind. It's great for thin line work. Okay, so one last thing. Don't know if I'll use these yet today, but I may go in with some washi tape. Love washi tape, and I hope to use some in this video. I'll show you how I do that. So with that said, turning on my camera. Okay, I got my camera on, and I used to use an iPhone to shoot my videos for the down shots of my artwork, and I use a Logitech webcam to shoot my face shots. And I use QuickTime to shoot these, and then I bring them into the ScreenFlow app, which is an awesome app for doing video editing. I'll link below. I'll link to the camera I'm using, and y'all know where an iPhone can be found. So starting off here, I don't know yet quite what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep it rather simple because I'm doing this for a video and I don't want to get too complex. And I think I might start off with some washi tape. I'm going to pick out a few. I'm not going to get too complicated with it. Just like my watercolor palette, I like to keep it minimal, the amount of things I choose. With my aesthetic, I just like a simpler color feel. Okay, I've picked out my washi tapes. The way I'm thinking about it right now is they're going to make up the clothes on these portrait people that I'm doing. I'm sticking primarily to orangey red and black patterns. And the next thing I do is I take a X-Acto blade, very sharp, and I'm being very careful. And I'm going to cut out the shape of the character's body first. Yeah, I'm going to take the cuticle tool and get underneath these pieces so I can pull up the extra. When I'm cutting washi tape or basically doing anything, I'm not worrying a whole lot about the precision of what I'm doing. I kind of like the surprise effect of when I pull the tape parts out that I didn't want to keep after I cut. I never really know what that shape's going to look like, and these are really wonky hats that have happened here. Time to move to watercolor. So I use this Payne's Gray. That's what I use for my black. It's a blue gray black that is extremely nice to use instead of black. It just has a depth to it that I don't get with black. So that's why I use the Payne's Gray instead of black. Okay, so I've used washi tape and watercolor so far. I'm going to move on to the pen work now. Detail requirements. I think I'm going to call this done. So again, I've linked all my supplies that I've used today down below. I'd love to hear any comments, questions, or suggestions you have for future videos. If you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and subscribe. And again, I'll link to the Daily Creating group below, as well as my website, so you could sign up for my email list. I have a monthly art print giveaway that I do to email subscribers, as well as you will be the first ones to know when new YouTube videos are up and any classes or other groups that I might be starting in the future. Thank you for being here, and I'll talk to you soon.